Hello, I'm host Eric, and I'm taking advantage of NAFTA tonight, and I'm producing this episode of Talking with Famous People by having it Hecho in Mexico. That's right. We're using the North American Free Trade Agreement to cut our labor costs tonight and produce this episode on location in Mexico, here in Guadalajara. And you will note, I have engendered a solution by Eric to render myself slightly less captain of terrible lighting industries. Got that piece of paper. I think you get a sense of that glare. You don't want any part of that. You don't want any piece of that at all. Nobody does. Anyhow, that's not what I want to talk about. Legitimacy issues. Alright, so I certainly had plenty of legitimacy issues. And I still have legitimacy issues. And they stem from the fact that, well, I mean, I guess I've got to go way back to talk about legitimacy issues. In our childhood, each one of us has a set of experiences that legitimizes him or her, and a set of experiences that delegitimizes him or her. And how those respective experiences weigh is going to have a big impact on how an individual manifests as an adult, I think. So, if you have sufficient legitimization, and it's usually going to be, good, loving, supporting parents, and a couple other elements that you need minimum to have a sufficiently sound foundation of legitimizing narratives. Because, I mean, each of us enters into the world and we've got to find ways to be an individual that are satisfying to us, that make us feel as though we're not, that we have value. And what makes an individual feel as though he or she has value is going to vary depending a lot on the personality type. For the ENTP, though, I would argue that we are unusually susceptible to, we need a higher balance of legitimizing narratives to delegitimizing narratives than most. And the reason for that being that depending on how we play out in youth, we can be, and I think ideally are, highly objective about our own failings. When I say ideally we are, I mean it's a tough road to hoe to be that self-critical and impulsive and mistake-prone. We are mistake-prone people. So that's a tough, long process. I think substantially less long for people who are actively metacogniting about it. And we're saying, okay, well, I guess I'm engaging in objective. I tend to praise myself for objective self-criticism, or used to, anyway. I don't know if I really still do it, but I would always try to find some narrative silver linings that grew out of the fundamental axiom of chalk it up to experience and learn from that experience and see what you can make out of it. I've had some very rough experiences in life of significance that don't really stick with me in terms of my life narratives at all. I've got other little minor things that don't even matter, and when you look at it, sort of pull back and look at it a little bit more, big picture don't matter at all, that have much larger significance in my narratives. My first divorce didn't need as much processing once I got a year out of it or so than one might think it would. And the reason for that, I think, is because I was able to sit back and go, alright, I got what I want out of this, first of all, if you just stop being such a freak out Fran for a second. You know, you got what you want out of this, which was a kid, and she's not around. You got full custody, more or less. You have to pay her a bunch of anything. So, what was all the crying and whining and stuff? Well, the other key factor in getting over that first divorce for me was the new woman, right? Well, that kind of objective self-criticism, what I'm talking about there, is not healthy objective self-criticism, like, in terms of wanting to wanting to classify your abilities and status and whatnot in terms of chicks. Like, I do it still, or, yeah, I mean, totally. I catch myself saying things like, oh, I'm not very good with chicks, or I don't feel like I can be good with chicks. Like, like chicks are a thing, right? Like, you know, chicks. But really, it's just, are you going to have an above into some place whom you hit it off with, and things go wherever they go? You know, there's nothing deeper or more complicated necessary to think about it than that. But of course, as an ENTP, I, and likely if you are one, and you as well, I would imagine, are prone to, why, surely if I produce more analysis on this, I will figure it out. The solution is always the same. More analysis. That's what we need, is more analysis. And I don't mean pointless analysis. I mean, we're not pointless analyzers. We like to draw conclusions. I like to draw conclusions anyway. I like to analyze for a purpose. I like to claim more ground than I have to, and then pull back if I need to. I think it's a better strategy in general than pussyfooting around and trying to avoid establishing any ground. I'm way off topic here. Let me go back to legitimacy. I don't know if this video is going to go up or not. We'll find out. Maybe it's good anyway. Legitimacy. So, it does link all in together, because, of course, when we're kids, how do we experience our development and our growth and grow into people who experience delegitimizing or legitimizing responses? Well, first and foremost, we're going to experience a identity-driven pushback to the fact that we don't want to stay doing one thing all the time. We don't want to be one person. We want to be a little bit of everything. And people don't want that necessarily for a couple of reasons. I mean, a lot of people are just simply more comfortable having people clearly defined in their own heads. But additionally, it's considered almost socially clumsy, because you're drawing too much attention to yourself, stuff like that. Even if you're only drawing attention to yourself by wanting to do a bunch of different things. Well, you don't have to be good at everything, or you don't have to try everything, or whatever. There's a certain amount of that. Or if you were me, where I grew up, I wasn't good at anything that mattered. I wasn't good at anything that was considered worth being good at, you know. I was not good at sports. I was not good at picking up chicks. See? I was not good at getting in fights and stuff. I mean, not that was hugely important, but, you know, they did happen. There were fights. There were plenty of fights. I got in a few of them, you know. It was a weirdly awful rich white suburb I grew up in. Anyhow, I mean, weirdly great too. I mean, like, I think a lot of people's childhoods, they have a mixed bag, you know. I certainly did as well. Was there supervision? No. Nobody was supervising anybody as far as I could tell. Now thinking back on it, I'm like, oh my God. But you hear this from everybody my age. They're like, oh, we grew up in that decade where parents just decided to stop taking care of their kids. And just be like, prior to that, there was a mom at home. After that, parents started being like, well, first you have yoga, and then you have blah, blah, blah. But during our little block of time, we got, yeah, we got shit to do. We'll see you at 10. Didn't bother me ever. Never bothered me for a second. My parents were around plenty. I saw plenty of my parents. You know, did I fit the definition of a latchkey kid? Yeah, in the sense that when I left for school, they were already gone to work. And when I got home from school, they weren't home yet. But, I mean, that's kind of... The only thing that's different than how it is now is we just played, you know. We played a lot. We played. It's good for an ENTP. You know, we brought our bikes around the neighborhood. Went to the Arboretum, the LA County Arboretum, right near my childhood home. And we'd go in there and go fishing. We catch these big ass fucking carp and catfish and koi and usually throw them back. I mean, we try to throw them back, but if they swallow the hook or something, we just kill them. But, you know, there was a million effing fish in there. There were so many fish. And you could not even throw your line in with a piece of Velveeta on it without getting a fish on your line in like 5 seconds. The thing is chock full of fish. But, you know, I think they dried up that lake because of the drought. Anywho, that's not about legitimacy, is it? Eric, are you getting off topic again? Alright, well, let's see if we can link it back in and make it sound like I was staying on topic. Sometimes I pull that shit off and I'm like, aha, I got back to it. I got back to it in a smooth way that people are like, wow, he knew where he was going the whole time. Not this time, obviously. So, yeah. Well, you know, when you're with your peer group and you are unsupervised, it's an interesting experience. I was fine always. I mean, I don't ever remember being concerned about my well-being when I was with my friends and stuff. I remember fear and stuff related to things at school. There certainly was a fair amount of bullying, and I definitely got bullied some. I didn't get it as badly as many, and I didn't get it sustained. I wouldn't say as long as many, or as persistently. But when I read Enneagram stuff, and it talks about the 7 with 8 personality type, it basically says 7 with 8 emerges in people, in 7s, who have to deal with superior physical force from their children. And I mean, I certainly did. And it's weird because my gut is to just be like, yeah, and so did everybody else. So what? You're fine. Quit being a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, that's my immediate gut response to this sort of line of thinking. That's called objective self-criticism, but it's kind of called, oh, you've internalized some bullshit, right? Ugh. But, you know, I kind of feel like it too, because, like, okay, well, you got nothing to whine about. Some people had it way, way worse than you did. And so, it's true. And I mean, I'm fine. I just think that I believe it. I believe that Enneagram thing. I was like, oh, is that what that is? That's not very attractive. I don't like that explanation. You know, I want it to be something tough, right? I want it to be something like, well, you bullied me, so now I'm a dick. That's not cool. That's a dumb explanation. I don't like it. But it really makes a lot of sense. And the implication is, well, what Enneagram, the thing I read said was that basically it's a means of protecting ourselves from potentialities that are too scary to consider in some way. And so that the 7 with 8's strategy for that is to us to walk into a circumstance assuming he is more powerful than his foe. And I mean, it's something we develop. It's a long time coming. It's a long time coming for me. It wasn't like I got bullied on Saturday and on Monday I'm a 7 with 8. You know, I haven't been bullied in a long time, but the last work shit that happened definitely brought out the warrior. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing at all, though. When you need to go to war, you need to bring out the warrior. So, anyway, legitimacy for the ENTP is important and difficult to attain. It's difficult to attain because they don't have a habit of being consistent and reliable and finishing everything on time and that kind of stuff. And when you don't do that, it's hard to garner a lot of opportunities in a conventional fashion to gain conventional legitimacy. You kind of got to find your thing. I was watching a video by So Malicious earlier about INFJ that I found was interesting because, of course, I don't know, of course, like, you know this, I don't know. Because my best friend's INFJ, and I've made a video on INFJs. I like them a lot. I mean, I only know one of them. Yeah. But I know I like introverted intuitors. So, I mean, people with it high in the stack. That yawn is a special gift from me to you. I'm imagining it elicited a yawn in response from you. I want you to enjoy that yawn you're enjoying right now. Yeah, it's good, huh? Did you make that sound? Did you go, ah? You have to go like that or else it doesn't count. Anyway, I feel legitimized more or less now. I feel legitimized because of work, first and foremost. Once I became a debate coach, all of a sudden I started getting actual legitimacy. Like, oh, this is what legitimacy is, when other people actually think you have meaningful things to say and think you're making a meaningful contribution to somebody's life that's important to them. So, you know, when parents and kids tell you that what you do matters, then I mean, it was quite a shock for me to discover that that was possible to matter at all. Because mattering would require self-discipline. It would require getting stuff done. It would require being not so much a big loser, right? This is the sort of talk I would say to myself in the past. It does require getting shit done to be happy for the ENTP. But it doesn't require laborious drudgery. You can get shit done. You just gotta find the right combination of factors. And with the getting shit done, whether or not it immediately garners you legitimacy or not is irrelevant, because what it does is it gives you solid pivots upon which to build your own sense of identity. When you have enough time objects, whatever form, whatever notion, that are built in order and build a brand like a little fort, you become sort of impenetrable insofar as you realize, okay, I have plenty of evidence here to reference. I can win these arguments. I am safe. It helps to be safe. There's a certain legitimacy and safety. Good night.